ongoing, but as the president said this morning, this is a truly heartbreaking incident. The thoughts and prayers of the entire administration are with the friends and families of the Marines who died in this tragic accident. Yesterday, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services released a report showing that half of the insurers who initially offered plans on the Obamacare exchanges have already fled the markets. I know that similar reports and announcements like these are coming out literally every day, but each of these announcements further reveal the failure of Obamacare. For the millions of American families and individuals caught in the fallout of Obamacare's collapse, these reports come as no surprise. They have been suffering the consequences of this failed law firsthand for far too long. And it's time for Senate Republicans to step up and fulfill the promise they made to those Americans by repealing and replacing it. Tomorrow, the Vice President will meet with another group of companies and individuals who have been harmed by Obamacare in Kentucky, continuing the nationwide travel he's been doing throughout this entire repeal and replace process. The President is determined to sign a bill that restores choice to the American people as soon as possible. Of course, while Republicans are working around the clock, and as Senator McConnell just announced, well into August to address some of our biggest legislative priorities, and as Mark and I both told you yesterday, Democrats are looking to set a record for pointless and dangerous obstruction. I know Mark went through some of the numbers with you yesterday, but there are just a few that I find truly astounding and would like to reiterate. While more than 90% of the previous administration's nominations were confirmed by a simple voice vote, Democrats in the Senate have allowed only approximately 10% of President Trump's nominees to be voted on in that way. As I mentioned, we're coming up on the August recess of President Trump's first term, by which point the Senate has confirmed 69% of President Obama's nominations. Less than a month out from that same point, the Senate has confirmed only approximately 23% of President Trump's nominees. These numbers show the Democrats' true colors. They're willing to play political games with the safety and security of the American economy and the American people, rather than work with this administration to solve the serious problems our nation faces. It's shameful that they are shirking the responsibility of the American people to put them in office to carry out, to protect and promote our nation and its citizens. It's well past time that Senate Democrats stop this unprecedented obstruction. And with that, I will take your questions. Kevin.
Thanks, Sarah. At what point did the president discuss with Donald Trump Jr. that meeting? Have you had a chance to get a sense of what he feels about this entire story as it continues to unfold? What's your sense on that? And then a follow-up.
I have a quick statement that I will read from the president. My son is a high-quality person, and I applaud his transparency. And beyond that, I'm going to have to refer everything on this matter to John Jr.'s counsel and outside counsel, and won't have anything else to add beyond that today.
That's your word at the end.
Yeah, at the end. I'm sorry.
And if I could follow up really quickly about the accident, how soon afterward did the president learn about what happened? What was the TikTok in terms of that? Did he get immediate word, or did it sort of go through a certain chain of events?
I'm not sure on the exact process. I'll have to check. I know he was aware of the situation, briefed on the situation, and continuing to get updates on it. But I don't know the exact TikTok, so I'll have to circle back with you on that, Kevin. Joe.
Sarah, given these emails, you had somebody who was identified as a Russian government lawyer, John Jr. agreeing to meet with him, being told that in those emails that the Russian government was trying to help the president win the election. Do you stand by a statement you made yesterday when you said that our position is that no one within the Trump campaign colluded in order to influence the election?
I do, and again, I don't have, beyond the statements yesterday and what I read today, I don't have anything else to add, Jill.
And when's the last time the two of them spoke, John Jr. and the president?
I'm sorry?
Do you know when the last time the president spoke with John Jr.?
I don't. Matthew.
Thanks. So the White House hasn't disputed any of the following, which is that the president's son, campaign chairman, and son-in-law had this meeting with the express purpose of receiving damaging information about Hillary Clinton and with knowledge of the Russian government supporting Trump's campaign. How is that not collusion?
Once again, I know you guys are going to get tired of it today, and not to sound like a broken record, but on all questions related to this matter, I would refer you to Don Jr.'s counsel and the outside counsel.
But you're not disputing any of the facts.
I'm not. I'm simply referring you to people that can answer that question, Matthew. Alex.
Sarah, in January, the president said that nobody in his campaign had been in touch with the Russians, and the White House stood by that statement. Was the president misled, or was he not truthful?
Once again, to repeat myself, I'm going to refer you to the outside counsel, and I don't have anything else to add.
Sarah, can we ask you, why were you interested in answering the questions yesterday, and why the president is not answering the questions himself, either through you or directly today?
The president.
What changed between yesterday and today?
Look, the president gave a statement on the matter, which I read to you, and like I've said, I don't have anything else to add beyond that.
Is the president still of the mind that he would like the investigation under the special counsel and the committees on Capitol Hill to work as expeditiously as possible, and he wants to cooperate and wants his family members and his top aides here at the White House to cooperate?
Absolutely. That's never changed since day one. We'd love to get this matter closed and focus on the big priorities of the American people.
So by not answering questions directly himself or through you, is that in his mind expediting the investigation, or is it blocking the investigation?
I'm not going to get into the back and forth on that, Maggie.
Sarah, when the White House says there was no collusion, what does the White House mean? What is the definition of collusion?
Again, I've said all that we're going to say on that matter, and anything further, you guys are going to have to reach out to outside counsel. April.
Sarah, the words collusion have been used. Other words have been used, obstruction of justice. I think now that's not even half of it. It could be treason or perjury. What does the White House have to say? There are new terms brought into this, new more serious terms brought into this.
I don't know how many times we'll have to address this.
I'm not asking about Don Jr. I'm asking about these words being brought into this equation that you want, this White House wants this whole investigation to be gone. There are new words now brought in.
I think those new words are ridiculous. Zeke.
Thanks, sir. Two questions for you. First, asking specifically about actions taken by White House staff in the last 72 hours.
I'm sorry, White House what?
By White House staff recently, so something that should not require you deferring to the special counsel. Can you talk about who inside the White House has been involved in your response on this? Has the president been kept in the loop, and chief of staff, others in the administration? Are you looking into potential communications by others on the White House staff in regards to this matter or similar matters?
All of the appropriate parties have been part of that conversation and part of that discussion.
Right, sorry, and the second question, Jared Kushner has apparently forwarded this same email. Is he still? Is his security clearance still valid right now?
As always, we've never discussed the security clearance of any
Sorry,
sort.
just one more. Yesterday, you said you checked back to us on the status of how the president views the U.S.-Russia relationship. So you today update us, is Russia a friend or foe?
Again, I haven't had a chance to have that direct conversation. I've been a little preoccupied with other things major, but I will certainly check on that, Zeke.
Policy question on Afghanistan, and then something about the statement you just read. So, has the president, through H.R. McMaster, notified the Pentagon that he is reasserting the cap of 3,900 additional troops to Afghanistan? Initially, it was reported that he had given the Pentagon and General Mattis authority to increase the troop numbers in accordance with the strategy. It's now subsequently been reported that a memo from H.R. McMaster said it's now limited at 3,900 and no more troops regardless of the strategy. Can you tell us if that's true?
I'm not aware of that specific memo, but I will check into the details of that and circle back with you. Maybe.
Can you tell us how seriously the president considered the idea of using private contractors to augment U.S. personnel on the ground in Afghanistan as opposed to U.S. military personnel?
I know that we feel it's important to get input from all perspectives, and all of the right people were part of that process throughout in any conversation. Look, we've used contractors extensively over the last 16 years. Currently, there are tens of thousands of contractors that are bravely serving alongside a lot of the U.S. military and coalition forces, and we're finalizing the review fully of the Afghanistan policy, and it only makes sense to consult those leaders in the field as well, and that's simply just part of the review process.
When you say the right people, does that include Eric Prince?
I'm sorry, I meant from our inside internally. All of the right people would be part of that process in terms of national security
Can you
team.
confirm if Eric Prince was part of the conversations about the contract?
I can't, but
That's it.
I cannot at this time, but I'll check and let
All
you
right, not on
know.
the president's statement, because you can talk about that, I would assume, since you read it to us. What transparency is the president applauding?
I believe the willingness on behalf of everyone within the administration or anything
about Don
beyond
Jr.,
that.
right?
I'm sorry,
The
and
statement was
anything.
about Don Jr.
I know, I'm trying to finish my sentence, Major. And anyone beyond that might be asked questions, the willingness to do so and to be fully transparent and open and answer any questions through the correct process, whether that is through the special counsel or anything beyond that. Peter?
Sir, is the president aware, as he speaks about the transparency of his son, that he only released those emails after being informed that the New York Times was about to publish them?
I'm not sure, Peter. I'd have to check.
Let me ask you more broadly about what we spoke about yesterday on the topic of appropriateness in terms of campaigns. Explain to Americans who are asking this question today why it's appropriate for a presidential campaign to accept a meeting with a Russian national after being promised high-level and sensitive information presented as part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. Explain to Americans why that would be appropriate.
Again, I'm not going to get into the details of anything surrounding this, and would refer you to Don Jr.'s counsel.
Do you stand by your statement that it was?
As I mentioned earlier, I stand by everything I said yesterday. Stephen.
The vice president, through his spokesman, said today that Mr. Pence is not focused on stories about the campaign, particularly stories about the time before he joined the ticket. That's been taken by many people in this town to suggest there is a distance between the president and the vice president on this. Is there such a distance?
Not at all. There's absolutely no distance between the president and the vice
Do
president.
you know if the president has spoken to the vice president about this?
I don't know if they've spoken directly about this, but I know they've spoken today.
One more question. There are lots of people who would like to know why this briefing was off camera today. Do you have a rationale for it?
As we've said many times before, I believe Sean stated back in December, we're always looking at different approaches and different ways to communicate the president's message and talk about the agenda. This is one of the many ways we choose to do that. Justin.
I'm going to take 2 bites at this apple as well. The first is the stock market.
Let's not break precedent.
The stock market sharply declined today on the release of the emails by Don Jr. And so I'm wondering if you're concerned that these revelations are going to impact the U.S. economy, and if you want to offer any assurances to investors that see this news and are obviously responding.
Look, the president, as he has been, not just since assuming office, but throughout the campaign, is focused on doing everything he can to strengthen and grow our economy, and that certainly hasn't changed today, nor will it at any point that he's president, Justin.
And then to go back to the statement that you read, the president says that he applauds Don Jr.'s transparency. I'm wondering if you guys would commit now to disclosing any other meetings that happened between Russian nationals and members of the Trump campaign towards that sort of
There's
transparency.
nothing that I'm aware of at this time, Justin.
Yesterday, you compared the meeting to Hillary Clinton's campaign's coordination with Ukraine. Do you feel that coordinating with all countries in the world are pretty much the same? That there's no difference between Ukraine and Russia or any other country?
I think it would depend on the nature. I mean, I can't speak about theoretical or hypothetical
just take Ukraine and
situations.
Russia. Do you feel that they're equivalent?
In what way?
Well,
I mean, they're two very different countries. I'm not going to put them on an equivalent playing field across the board on any matter that could possibly come
Do you
up.
consider them both, allies, partners of the United States, or adversaries? I mean, in what way are they similar? Because
I was talking about the process, not the two countries. I was talking about the process that had been gone through by both sides. That was all. That was the only point I was making.
Okay, but I thought you were saying if it was okay for Hillary to coordinate with Ukraine, it should be okay, or to meet with Ukraine about possible information that might be relevant in the campaign. It would be equally okay to meet with Russians about information there.
I was talking about simply the process and nothing beyond that.
I still think it was okay. Put aside the issue of collusion. is it appropriate to meet with Russians about information they might have?
As I've said earlier, I stand by the comments I made yesterday. Trey?
Thanks, Sarah. I have 2 quick questions for you. Have you spoken with the president in the past 24 hours?
Yes.
What was the general reaction to this story, without getting into an official White House response to some of the questions earlier? Did you speak with him about this story?
I think that the president is, I would say, frustrated with the process of the fact that this continues to be an issue, and he would love for us to be focused on things like Justin mentioned, the economy, on healthcare, on tax reform, on infrastructure, and that's the place that his mind is, and that's what he'd like to be discussing. John Gizzi?
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. I have 2 questions as well. Senator Rubio said this morning that the entire matter involving Donald Trump Jr. is, and I quote, Mueller territory. In other words, it should be left solely up to the special prosecutor. What's the White House reaction to that?
Again, I would refer you to the outside special counsel, and I think that's something that they could work on together.
So you have no reaction to what Senator Rubio said?
No, I don't, John.
All right. My other question is about personnel. The president has, and you pointed this out yesterday in the form you handed out, numerous judicial vacancies to fill, including 4 on the controversial Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. In an effort to speed this up, will the administration waive the blue slip process from senators and the opinion of the American Bar Association?
I don't know if those conversations have taken place about whether or not to waive that in order to expedite, but I'll be happy to check into it for you.
Sarah,
Olivier?
Thanks. I have 3, but I'll try to be quick.
3?
Secretary Mattis said about a month ago that you guys would be rolling out the new Afghanistan strategy by mid-July. Does that still hold?
I know that the plan is to roll that out after there's been a full review process, and I don't have anything beyond that at this point. I know they'd like to do that soon.
Okay, you don't have anything beyond that. Be that as it may, what role does the president see for himself in terms of explaining the strategy to the American people? Does he plan a primetime address? Does he plan a press conference? Does he plan a national tour? How implicated do you think he will be in selling the new strategy to the public?
I think those things will be determined once the new strategy is finalized.
Last one. Whose decision was it to provide relatively limited answers today to the Don Jr. Questions? Is it a lawyer? Did the White House counsel instruct you not to do this? Is it a communications decision? Who made that decision?
The appropriate parties were part of the conversation. That decision was made internally. Jordan?
Thanks, Sarah. The administration missed this deadline to make a decision on steel tariffs. Can you give us an update on where that decision stands? Can we expect a decision this week?
Yeah, the report and any recommendations within that report are going through a normal interagency review process, and as soon as that's completed, that'll be released, hopefully in short order.
Is there a reason for the deadline?
Look, this is a self-imposed deadline, and they're working to get it through the final review process as quickly as possible. John?
Thanks a lot, Sarah. In the conversation that you had with the president, did he give an indication to you that these stories that we see come out day after day in the New York Times specifically are in any way self-inflicted? After all, it's the meeting that Don Jr. had with this Russian lawyer that has precipitated all of this.
No, and I think the president's made it pretty clear his position on this entire process.
When you have that conversation with the president, do you ask him, just so you can speak with us and inform us, do you say, what was the nature, from your understanding, Mr. President, about the conversation that your son and these other 2 individuals had with this Russian lawyer?
I didn't have that type of conversation. The conversations I have are, the goal is to get information that I can best communicate to you guys, whether it's on healthcare or infrastructure or tax reform or any other matter. The way those conversations play out are going to vary from topic to topic. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
On sanctions, I wanted to ask, is the White House suggesting or asking for new language to insert kind of a tweak to give the president the waivers, the national security waivers that you're seeking, or is the White House wanting to see the bill canceled altogether or killed
As I said yesterday, the president's committed to maintaining the existing sanctions against Russia until Moscow reverses the aggressive actions against Ukraine that triggered the sanctions. And President Trump reaffirmed this position at the G20 last Friday. But this is more about foreign policy and having the flexibility to negotiate with other countries. And this includes working with allies and partners to present a united front to common foes. And we remain committed to working with Congress on those issues.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you. With the, sorry.
You just posed my question.
I'm sorry.
Can you call on me next, Sarah?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. With Mosul now in Iraqi hands, does the president have a strategy for the future of Iraq, for U.S. involvement in Iraq?
Those are continued conversations, and as we have announcements on it, we'll let you guys know.
Thanks, Sarah. Sarah, I'm gonna take this one.
I promised I'd come to him next.
Is President Trump now aware of the Russian government effort to influence the campaign in his favor?
I'm sorry?
Is the president now aware of the Russian government effort to influence the campaign in his favor?
Again, I'm not going to answer any questions on that matter.
And a follow up on that. Yesterday, you were asked when the president learned of the Donald Jr. meeting, and your response was, "I believe in the last couple of days is my understanding." Is there any reason that we should think that answer would change today? Have you learned anything new that would change your response there?
No, I haven't. Thanks, guys, so much.
What about a comment on Jared Kushner or Paul?
Good afternoon. News of today and take your questions. I first want to take a minute. Men and women who lost their lives yesterday in the crash of a Marine Corps transport plane in Mississippi. As of now, the investigation into the details of the crash is still ongoing, but as the president said this morning, this is a truly heartbreaking incident. The thoughts and prayers of the entire administration are with the friends and families of the Marines who died in this tragic accident. Yesterday, the Center for Medicare